So we're here today at the Powell Ranch shearing. We've got Paul Brown. You're here helping class wool.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
so do you class a lot of wool? Is that a part of your mainstay?
I'm just getting started. Of course, we do a lot of wool classing at our fiber mill. My wife and I own Independence Farmstead Fiber Mill in Independence, Texas. And so there's a lot of wool classing and mohair classing that goes on at the mill. But as far as coming out and doing some commercial shearings, I'm just getting started. She started about a year ago, and it's quite an honor and a little intimidating to be a part of one of these big commercial shearings.
All right. So how did you get into the fiber mill business?
Well, actually, that was my wife's endeavor. We started with a few Pygora goats on our ranch up in Arkansas, and that grew and grew and grew, and now we had an opportunity to purchase an artisan fiber mill, and we got it set up. And of course, we're learning that it's more art than it is science, and when it comes to producing yarn, and that appeals to our creative side.
Okay. All right. So the whole artisan is not out of line with the nomenclature.
That is correct. You know, it's amazing to watch my wife as far as the production goes. She does all the yarn, and it's amazing how she can look at it, see how it's spinning, and she'll make a little adjustment on the draft speed, etc., and just make it just the most gorgeous spun yarn that you've seen, whether it's mohair or fine wool from Texas or a blend of the two. She just does a wonderful job, and I just kind of stand back in awe of her.
Okay. So what kind of services or products do you make at this fiber mill?
Well, of course, we do custom processing for the small producer, and you know, we'll do everything from a small custom blend of say a heritage breed like a Gulf Coast native sheep or an Icelandic sheep that it's really too small to go to a commercial mill. So that's our market, is that small producer, and we have a lot of fiber guilds, part of the fiber shed, that will send us. They'll curate a few fleeces and send them to us, and we'll process them for us. And then my wife has embarked on something that we're really excited about, what we call the Great Texas Yarn Project. We feel like the wool and mohair industry in Texas has, you know, it's 150 years that it's been here, and we feel like it's a heritage worth protecting and preserving. And so this yarn project that she's got going, where she curates the wool and the mohair, hand curates it, and then produces yarn with it, so that yarn has a story. We know which pasture it came from, which ranch it came from, that we processed it, and whoever takes that, and whether she weaves a tapestry or they knit a scarf or a shawl, they know the story of that yarn literally from pasture to the end product, and we're really excited about that. We think that's an opportunity for the Texas market to expand, because there is a future for the small producer, and even the large producers that produce this super fine wool that we have in Texas. You know, we've had 150 years of selective breeding, so we have the best genetics in the world. I think that's an unbiased opinion.
Yeah. So that's some really cool things. What's a normal order that you would get? Like when someone would send it in, would they send a fleece, 5 fleeces, and then what do you produce from that?
Well, we will typically get around 5 to 10 pounds. If that is a raw fleece where it's got dirt in it, if it's wool, it's going to have lanolin. That will come out in the wash. So we'll lose somewhere about 20% of the weight just in the washing. But that's natural. We're not losing fiber. We're losing the lanolin, the grease, the dirt. Then as we pick it, card it, start spinning it, you know, we're going to have some more loss there as the little bitty short fibers come out, and that they're supposed to. Otherwise, they'd come out on you when you wore the sweater. But you know, some of the producers will send us 4 or 5 fleeces, and maybe they're just knitters or hand spinners that have bought them online from a small breeder in California, for example. They'll buy the raw fleece, send it to us, and they'll just want us to wash it and pick it, and then they want to do everything else with it. So basically what we're doing is we're cleaning the fiber, and you know, for someone who lives in a big city and can't raise her own sheep or her own mohair, you know, that's as close as she's going to get to go from pasture to finished product. So we're happy to provide that service for everyone.
So you wash it and clean it. Do you also?
We can pick it, we can card it, turn it into roving so it's ready for hand spinning, or we can go ahead and process it into a single ply, double ply, triple ply yarn. And in fact, right now, fingers crossed, we're actually trying to produce 100% mohair cordage for girth makers. And you know, unfortunately, nowadays 100% mohair cordage is hard to come by. They're blending it with either polyester or cotton, and it just doesn't hold up. So the saddle makers, the bridle makers, the rein makers, they want that 100% mohair. And so that's a project, and that kind of falls on me because there's some manufacturing in that. So we're working on that as well.
So tell us how do you get from yarn to cordage?
Well, cordage is basically just, it's a heavyweight, finger weight yarn that's 8 ply. It's plied together, 8 strands are plied together. And so as opposed to the yarn that would be in your sweater, for example, if you can imagine 8 of those plied together to make essentially a small rope, that's what we're trying to produce.
Okay. So you do some custom order for people where they send it to it, you wash it, maybe make it into yarn and send back. Do you buy product and then sell a yarn out?
Right. With the Texas Yarn Project, we're here, that's part of what we're doing here this week is we're curating fleeces where we'll pull out prime fleeces, because for an artisan mill, we don't have a scour train, so vegetable matter, it's important that it be as free of vegetable matter as possible so that we can process it. A big commercial mill is going to scour it, make all that VM go away. We're not going to do that. So we're here curating those fleeces so that we can process this fine wool and turn it into yarn. We'll attend fiber shows throughout Texas, Seguin, Boerne, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Tyler, and basically just have a booth there where the hand spinners, the weavers, they can come and they can purchase the wool. Whether we've turned it into cloud, which is just basically they still have to card it, and maybe they want to do a lot of their own processing, or roving so it's ready to be hand spun, or yarn where it's ready to be knit or dyed. We produce a lot of very natural fiber yarn. Even the things that we dye with, we use cochineal, lichen, bodock wood or bodart, Osage orange.
These are all natural dyes.
These are all natural dyes, and in fact the cocuño, the wildflowers, like the cocuño varieties, we can dig up those roots and use those roots to dye with, and they produce some incredible color. It's real natural.
So back to Independence Farmstead Fibers. How long have y'all been in business, and how is business? Are y'all seeing an expansion, a gain in interest?
Right, we're on our 3rd year, and we are, it's a good problem and a bad problem to have, and small artisan mills run into this. As you produce a really good product, the word of mouth spreads so quickly that you'll get overwhelmed with orders, and it's quite common. And we have to stress this to people who aren't used to dealing with small mills or artisan mills, is that we're a family business. We don't have 40 employees. You know, we're not some big top maker in South Africa. We're a little family-owned business, and things happen, and we will, from time to time, have to shut down taking orders just because the mill is so backlogged. It's not fair to anybody to say, okay, yeah, send us your fleece, send us your deposit. We're going to hold it for a year before we can even get to your to your fiber. So we'll just shut it off. Currently, we are catching up. We're not taking any yarn orders currently, but we are taking everything else. So, you know, if someone's got some fiber they want to process into roving for hand spinning, we can handle that. But the yarn orders, just because of the time involved, we kind of have our production scheduled around that yarn.
Other than labor and time availability to get this done, any other challenges that you see in the artisan fiber mill?
I would say it's not so much a challenge. It's an education it's an education issue from some of the different producers. A lot of people are new to it, and we're glad that they are. But you know that information is out there. Texas AgriLife does a great job. The Texas Sheep and Goat Raisers Association, mohair industry, the American sheep industry. That information's out there so that when a hand spinner or someone wants to get their fiber, whether it's from their own animals or they're buying it, if they can educate themselves so they know what they're looking for. I'd say one of the saddest things we deal with at the mill is when someone sends us a bunch of fiber really excited because they're new to it and they're really looking forward to producing, knitting, spinning, and they send us fiber and we get it and we're like, oh, you know, this is really in rough shape. Yeah. It's got cockaburs, it's got sticker burrs, and we can't do anything with it, and you can't really do anything with it. And so many times the response is, well, I didn't know. And that's true. There's a learning curve. You know, when we started the mill, we sacrificed a lot of our own fiber on that learning curve. Yeah. And so I think that's important for the person who's new to fiber arts, new to fiber animal breeding, etc. Get online, educate yourself, get with your extension office, your extension agent. I think one of the best opportunities for that is your field day in August over here in St. Angelo. Last year, I came to it. My wife's been to both of them. This will be the third year, if I'm right. That was fantastic. And I know this year you're going to be including mohair in it, which we're excited about. So, you know, those resources are out there for the small producer that's new, so they don't have to, so the learning curve's not so steep, and they can get some help, and they can educate themselves, and they know, you know, when they look at that fiber, hey, you know, my mill's not going to be able to process that. I'm not going to be able to process that. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is that for the new person to actually take that time and educate themselves so they don't end up with a bunch of fiber they can't use.